Pinckney Island, South Carolina. A sliver of marshland surrounded by oyster beds. America's exit sign to the great Atlantic. 2 miles off this coast last Thanksgiving, a lone pilot was frantically searching to see where the sky would touch the earth.
Cathy MaReady was soon to be a fugitive from the law of averages. 1,500 feet over the Atlantic, her engine stopped. It would not restart.
As I was going down, it seems like some of your youth creeps away, some of your carefreeness. I said, no, this is real. I'm going down. This is water. It's black. And it looks very cold.
The plane sank in 30 seconds.
I saw the tail and the beacon going down into the water. And then there was just silence.
She had no life preserver.
That was very frightening. Looked up in the sky and got a few breaths and started swimming. And I panicked at first. I ripped off all my clothes. I floated until I got my senses together. Followed the stars, trying to keep in a straight line. You know, like if you're in a pool and swimming laps, you always get crooked. And I tried to keep myself lined up with Orion's belt and on the stars.
No moon outlined her struggle. Both pilots passed unnoticing.
I guess it was the being alone that could best describe it. So alone, indescribable loneliness. So I'd be talking to myself. I could hear my voice echo all the way across the water. And like I say, my own body fighting me at certain points, trying to float and seeing my feet slipping up from under the water, and I thought it was a shark or something.
Cathy MaReady swam all night against a 7-foot tide. Temperatures were in the 50s.
I hit a sandbar after about 6 hours. I was starting to experience really heavy indications of hypothermia, and I was too weak to stand up. I couldn't get my legs to hold me up. And something inside just said, just keep going, you'll freeze to death if you sit here on the sandbar. So I crawled back out into deep water again. And I guess it was about an hour after that, I crawled up into an oyster bed. And I could hear the oysters crunching beneath my knees, but I couldn't feel them. I was so numb. It just felt so good to hit earth.
Hours later, she heard the birds pulling the blanket back from the eastern sky. It was morning. Cathy MaReady had hit shore in sight of the only man on Pinckney Island, game ranger Gary Heat.
She would have never made it across the marsh. Out there, I wouldn't expect anybody to make it more than 2 or 3 hours, swimming at night, not knowing where you were, fighting the tidal currents, and it's amazing.
Did you ever give up hope?
No, not really.
But you didn't have a life jacket.
No.
You were 2 miles from shore.
Right.
There are sharks in those waters.
But it's supposed to be the best shark fishing in the area right around there.
Middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And you still thought you could make it.
That's the will to survive. I really don't think my ordeal is that spectacular. You know, men go through war and they're fighting death every day and they see it every day. You know, mine was 6.5 hours, and that's kind of what I kept in my head.
Well, not quite. 2 months later, Cathy was back in the sky, flying yet another plane. This time, her landing gear would not go down.
Something's definitely out of whack here.
She bellied onto the runway, unhurt. In spite of everything, Cathy MaReady still feels flight is beautiful.
All right.
This is her new plane.
Nice.
And this is the morning she will try it out for the first time.
Well, you always talk to old pilots when you hang around airports, and they always have 2,000,001 horror stories to tell for their career, so I figured I'm just starting.
The courage and the plane, you see, are essential. Cathy MaReady has opened her own flight school.
Hilton Head Unicum.
What will you tell your students when that inevitable question comes up? What do I do to survive?
Well, I'm going to teach them how to land it right so they won't have to worry about that.
For today, Bob Dotson, NBC News, Hilton Head, South Carolina.